On this episode, we compare modern and classic vehicles with door gap and panel fitment. Nigel finishes gapping the front clip of the El Camino, and we teach you all of the tips and tricks and products used to do the job the right way. Stay tuned. So here we are talking about door gaps. We're with a brand new vehicle. This happens to be a Tesla, and the door gaps from the fender to the door are really, really nice. So I want to give you guys an example of that. We've got a gap tool here. This is an 1/8" flat strap steel, and let's run it down the gap and check the consistency. Here we go. It's really nice up through the beginning of the door. Right here, through the ribbon, it gets a little bit loose. You can hear it. A little bit loose, but it's consistent. All the way down, we can still shake it and move it a little bit. And then it does get a little bit tighter as it tapers down to the rocker panel. But overall, when you stand back and look at this door gap, it looks good. It's 95% there from the factory with an aluminum body and a vehicle that's been used. I think this car is 6 or 7 years old. So now I'm going to take you over to a F100 and we're going to check the gaps on a 72 F100 Ford pickup. So here we are with a truck that is in our shop, and this little section right here with the cowl, the hood, and the door is a good indicator of 3 different size gaps. So you can see the hood is massive. I can take my gap tool and I can just shake it. I can even add a paint stick and I can still shake it. I can add another paint stick and it still just barely gets tight. So big gap into an 1/8" gap across here. It does get larger in the rear. And then the door is all over the place. You can see I run it down, it gets tight. Bring it down here, it's big. It's large all the way down. Gaps really tell a story of either a vehicle that's been in an accident or a vehicle that's been disassembled and put back incorrectly. So our goal here with gapping is that we have everything consistent to 1/8 of an inch. So let's run across the street and watch as Nigel gaps the front end of the El Camino. Let's do it. Nigel begins the gapping process by having the door and the fender aligned to the best of his ability. He uses the 3M weld-through paper to protect the existing body and primer work on the doors. The front fenders have been powder coated. Unfortunately, we have to remove that powder coat and use a MIG welder to fill in the gaps that are inconsistent. Once he finishes welding and adding material to the fender, he can then use a roll-on disc 36 grit to fair the edge of the weld and make it as consistent as he can to the eye. A quick visual inspection reveals a few areas in the gap that are still inconsistent. So Nigel grabs the welder, makes a couple fills, and grinds it smooth.
What's the blue dye for?
Blue dye for, so the metal's all shiny, helps with my eyes. Lay down the blue, and then when I do my scribe line, I'll be able to see that thing perfectly.
The blue die-cam dye and a scribe tool give you the best results so you can get perfect gaps every time. The yellow tape is only used right up on the edge of that scribe on the fender. It's a visual reference for Nigel to easily see the line that he needs to grind towards. Once finished, he checks his work with a 1/8 thick gapping tool, in this case, a paint stick. Now that the door to fender gap is perfected, we noticed a larger gap here from the window pillar to the B pillar. Although the process is time consuming, this is the best way to fill the gap. Grab your roll-lock disc and remove any existing material to get your panel to bare metal. Then use a MIG or TIG welder and use the fill rod to build the gap. Then a 5-inch roll-lock disc, grind it flush, Use the die cam as a guide, make your scribe, and finish off with a roll-lock disc. Perfection will always be guaranteed if you follow these simple methods. Here is a perfect example why you never grind the door edge without re-welding. Once you open up the door edge material that's been folded over, you expose the inner door skin. You can see here the crack that exists from grinding. This crack must be filled by welding and cooling the panel, either with a MIG or a TIG welder. Clean the panel very well. Continue the weld past the point of the split or crack to make sure that future door movement does not allow that crack to split open after paint.
So Nigel has finished up the gapping process on the door and the fender. Ideally, we would have loved to have this all completed, but sometimes on these time crunches, you notice things afterwards, and so that's just what it was. So we ended up welding a little material on the edge of the B-pillar, and then he filled in on the door. So we're just going to check it. Brandon made this little gap tool, and you can get these at a couple different places sell these, but we just make them up here out of 1/8" straps. So we're just going to run it through and make sure everything's good to go. Little tight in the corner right there. Come back the other direction. It's a little snug. I'm just going to put a little mark there. We'll just give that a little file. And we'll run it through again. Let's see what happens here. That one looks great. And we'll check the B-pillar. Perfect. So the door gaps look great thanks to the gap tool and Nigel's hard work. We're going to get these bare metal areas coated in epoxy. We do have an issue with the hood. When it came back from sandblast, we saw a low spot on the center peak. So let's run over to the bench. Brandon and Nigel are going to get that thing strapped up and make a pole and see if we can get that looking right, and then we'll be able to mount it onto the car and continue paint and body. Let's go check it out. So this morning we are working on the hood and the front clip on the El Camino. Last week we got the fenders bolted on, and we just set the hood in place and got it aligned close. But when we were doing that, we noticed there was a big low spot right in the center peak. And we verified it by just holding up the straight edge here. We can see it this way, and then if we hold it up and give a little crown to it, we can also see the issue. So this adds another step in the process. Unfortunately, the hood has been powder coated already, and we think this occurred during that powder coating process. So we're going to try to make the repair and leave as much powder coat as we can on the panel. And Nigel's going to get started on it, and we came up with a great game plan, so let's get after it and see if we can get this thing straight. Again, so these little shims here, they originally were installed right in here between the inner structure and the outer skin, and those have all hardened. If we ever want to do any body work, or if we ever want to block sand or paint the outside, we can't let the hood skin just flex and be loose. So we're actually gonna do some modern panel bond, and what they do with all the new vehicles. We're going to do that in here. We're going to panel bond these two parts together and that should take care of the oil canning and add some rigidity, and then we'll get the skin repaired and we're good to go.
Panel bond must be applied to a bare metal surface, so Nigel cleans the powder coat off of the existing underside of the hood. Then the two-part epoxy panel bond component is applied in between the skin and the outer hood panel. The spacer sticks are removed the next morning and more panel bond is applied where these sticks once laid.
All right, here we are with the hood. Nigel has just finished up gluing the final little areas with the panel bond from 3M. So I just wanted to show you guys. Yeah, it looks a little bit messy. We can clean that up with a DA sander, and we will refinish this in a nice satin black for the final product. But I'm gonna lay the hood down here and I wanna show you how much stronger. God, these things are so massive and heavy. But if I just take my hands and I just run it, put a little bit of pressure, you can see how strong the hood and the outer skin has become. And that's vital for doing any kind of body work. And even when we polish, like, we want everything to be tight and crisp, and that's exactly what this is. The center section looks great, everything's good, so we're gonna let this cure up over the weekend. It does take 24 hours to set up, but we're gonna give it the 2 days on the weekend. We'll get back into the shop Monday. We'll be able to start body work on the hood, get the fenders jamming, and we're just one step closer to painting this thing gloss black.
Another great week of labor on the 59 El Camino, and we're moving in the right direction. So join us next week as we finish bodywork on the fenders and we break out the 150 grit longboard sandpaper to start block sanding the entire car. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.
What's up, everybody? Brian from Mackey's Hot Rod Shop with our YouTube channel, Mackey and Machine. We wanted to say thank you guys for subscribing. The numbers are growing way faster than we ever expected. So a quick overview, we're giving away a box of merchandise for every new 1,000 subscribers. We bundle everybody together, we pick one number, and we send out all this merchandise straight to your door. It's just a way to say thank you, so we really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, do so now, because we're continuing our content in a hot rod shop, bicycles, motorcycles, planes, trains, boats, all of it here on Mackey and Machine. We've got a ton of new content for you guys. The best part of all, real quick, is a 1940 Ford giveaway as soon as we hit 50,000 subscribers. What do you have to do? Hit the subscribe button. That's it. We keep track of everything else. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.